Welcome to Dairy Delivery by the Dairy Star. On today's episode, we hear about the family affair of corn silage chopping in Minnesota from Ken Beekes. The Beekes family had 4 generations helping during corn silage harvest this year, including help from his few-week-old son. Next, we talk to Teresa Schmidt, who went from no prior dairy experience to now running a dairy of her own in Wisconsin. Then we head to Iowa, where we caught up with Lakea Tenley. Lakea and her husband, Tanner, restored their barn and were featured in this fall's Iowa Barn Tour, as well as having their own storefront located on their farm. Finally, we wrap up today's episode with Katie Bono. Bono has been making artisan cheese since she was about 15 years old with her and her family's goat milk. You're listening to Dairy Delivery, all dairy, all the time. We'd like to thank today's sponsor, Heartland Interpretation and Translation.
According to OSHA, 1 in every 4 workplace accidents are directly related to a language barrier. Does your farm have the tools in place to avoid these risks? Heartland Interpretation and Translation Services partners with dairy farms throughout the Midwest by offering 24/7 access to interpreting services in more than 350 languages, certified translations of company materials, and even an on-site English for Business program. Having worked with Heartland for the past 4 years, New Generation Dairy says, since working with them, we've been able to break through a language barrier and create an overall positive work environment. Long gone are the days of procedure confusion or overnight emergencies, all because of a language barrier. Language access isn't a luxury, it's an investment into your business and a benefit to your employees. Visit www.heartlandlanguage.com or call 812-499-1696 for a free quote today. That's 812-499-1696 for a free quote.
I'm Michelle Stangler.
And I'm Dan Walker, and we're your reporters with Dairy Star, bringing you the latest in the dairy industry, including hearing from farmers from across the Midwest and beyond. Well, Michelle, with a little bit of a cold snap, it finally feels like fall a bit.
Yeah, I mean, there's a little warmth too, a lot of sun, but I love the fall season. And there's also a lot of grain trucks and farmers out on the road. And so it's definitely a busy season. I know the USDA weekly crop reports are continuing to show a lot of progress in harvest. So I bet by the next time we speak, we'll be well into halfway harvest season.
Definitely, yeah. And talking with our guys from Crop and Weather, hearing their progress and what they're getting through with everything. And shoot, even coming back from Expo, all the fields, I'd say it was a 3-day. I was down there for 3 days, and then coming back after those 3 days, some of those fields that were standing were no longer there. The bean fields, even some corn fields were getting taken care of. So it was good to see. Obviously, definitely a sign of the time, sign of the season when the colors change and the crops are getting taken off and harvest season is in full effect.
Yeah, it's certainly a busy season, but it's sometimes, I know I often feel this, it's a busy season, so it's easy to forget to eat good and to stay safe and to try to rush through everything. But I remember growing up on my family's dairy farm, like it's a great season to be a part of. And it reminds us that there is just so much joy that comes from farming, but to just take a step back and to try to get it all done, of course, but know that it's fun and to take those extra safety precautions as well, though.
Yeah, definitely. Want to make sure all of our listeners and like your family and my family, everybody stays safe out there with everything that they got working on and all the crops they got to try to bring in. So.
Yeah, well, it's sure a busy fall, and we have a lot of conversations on today's episode, so let's get into it.
We start today's episode in central Minnesota. Tiffany Klopacki talked with Ken Beekes about the family coming together for corn silage harvest. Beekes, along with his father, grandfather, brothers, an uncle, neighbor, and their farmhand, along with his wife, mother, and 1-week-old son, all worked together to finish corn silage this year, having 4 generations working the ground together.
So this year we were blessed. We had quite the crew. Our chopping crew consists of myself, Ken. I run one of the pile tractors. My older brother, Sean, he is the guy that runs our self-propelled chopper. My 2 younger brothers, on the weekends and in the evenings when they're not at their off-farm jobs, they were helping chop, pulling wagons. My uncle Kevin from South Carolina, he's my mom's brother. He came up. He was here the whole the whole chopping season with us. Typically, he tries to get up here and help us. Our farmhand, Darren, he's a high schooler, phenomenal kid. He's been with us 2 years now. He was helping pull boxes, filling in wherever is needed. And then our neighbor, Mike, he always helps us chop both corn and haylage. But we also custom chop for him as well. So we kind of swap some labor with him off his chopping bill. And then my father, Kurt, he ran the other packing tractor and filled in pulling boxes as needed. Then my mom, my grandma, and my wife, my sister-in-law, they made sure to keep us all fed. That's probably more of an important role than anybody ever gives credit for. The farm wives, they deserve a lot more credit than what they get for having to deal with us men during harvest. And then this year, it actually worked out. My grandpa, who typically helps us, things went so fast, we didn't use him a whole lot this year. He was kind of our backup guy. Normally, he does end up pulling boxes, but he just helped out for a couple hours here while we were waiting for Darren to get out of school. And that was pretty much all of our help. We managed to chop all of our silage for the dairy in about 40 hours, which is kind of a record for us. We were blessed with really good weather. The equipment functioned fine. Our only accident, I guess you could call it, one of the drivers, when they were pulling the load over the pile, actually blew a tire on the back of the silage box. We didn't end up tipping it over. It came close. It was kind of nerve-wracking, but I was able to catch it with the tractor and loader before it tipped over, and we were able to get it unloaded and safely off the pile and got a new tire on, and we're back at it in about an hour. So that was probably our only fluke deal, but that's kind of chopping in a nutshell for us this year.
So what was it like having so much of your family helping out?
It honestly is one of the greatest heartwarming feelings, I think, as a young farmer, for me, seeing and being able to work with my brothers and my dad and my grandpa and our neighbor and our hired hand. I mean, it really is overwhelming. And then, on top of it, having my son born too, and being able to have him and my wife in the tractor and really kind of get a whole new perspective of farming now that we've got another generation to hopefully keep a part of the family farm. There is just no greater feeling. I mean, everybody likes being done with silage chopping because it's just chaos. Normally chopping takes us 10 days, but this year with the yields and stuff were that we didn't chop half the acres we were expecting. So it was just overwhelming how well the family worked together, and everybody knows their place, they know their job, and they're good at it. I mean, I will put our guys against anybody for getting the job done. I mean, we absolutely kick hind end at what we do. And, the members of the community have joked that our family is a force to be reckoned with when it comes to getting the job done. And we prove that every time we work together. And I know there's a lot of other farms out there that, it's not family oriented. And, farming is so embedded in our family's roots that it's just what we do. It's who we are. And to be able to keep farming as a family is a phenomenal thing, and something I wish that more people got to enjoy the way that I get to enjoy it.
Customize your translation services to fit your needs. Whether you're looking for in-person services in Heartland's area or needing a remote video call, Heartland Interpretation and Translation Services is here for you. Need assistance immediately? The 24/7 interpretation helpline is available over the phone or on video chat. With over 350 spoken languages, you can get your answers promptly. Visit www.heartlandlanguage.com or call 812-499-1696 for a free quote today. That's 812-499-1696 for a free quote.
Catch up on the biggest silage harvest under the headline Biggest Family Bands Together for Silage Harvest on dairystar.com. Next, we head to Fort Atkinson, Wisconsin, not too far from where I grew up, where our writer Stacy Smart caught up with Teresa Schmidt. Teresa was studying to be a nurse before taking a part-time job milking cows. That part-time job pivoted her to a completely new career path, one in the dairy industry.
Teresa started milking cows this year. You bought your first cow back in February, and you're a first-generation dairy farmer. So can you just tell me a little bit about how you got started and where maybe this passion for dairy farming came from?
Well, I guess the passion came from just the first time I milked cows and deciding I liked it, which was actually not too long ago. That was just in 2017. And when I was asked by the farmer that I was working for if I would kind of manage things while he took care of some health concerns, I was in nursing school and I decided, you know what? I like cows more than people anyway, so let's do it. And I don't think there's been a day that I've regretted that decision.
That's great. And so you started milking in February. And can you tell me a little bit about where you're at now, the farm you're at? Because I know it can be really hard for a first generation farmer to get into the industry if you don't have maybe a family member to follow up. So can you tell me kind of about the path you took to get to, milking cows?
I'm currently renting a farm from a gentleman that I met through a mutual friend and stumbled upon the opportunity and had no intention of milking cows here at the farm. I was just raising calves, and then I somehow accidentally bought a cow in February, and in June I redid the pipeline and started shipping milk on the 17th of June, actually. I was milking 9 cows and kind of grew from there.
That is amazing. So tell me kind of in these 7 months or so, some of the ups and downs you've experienced of dairy farming.
Well, I can tell you that everything you write down on paper never matches what happens. Going through all the figures and all the planning, nothing matched up with what I've encountered. But it's been a roller coaster, but it's still a roller coaster that I want to stay on.
And you've had your first calf was born here today, correct?
Yes.
Okay, a little heifer.
Yes.
So that is super exciting.
Yeah.
And you're milking, so now with that new calf, you'll be milking 18 cows as of tonight.
Just 18 cows. I know it doesn't seem like much, but I'm very proud to be milking 18 cows and hoping to grow slowly and just kind of putting an emphasis on quality over quantity right now.
And you've acquired a lot of your cows through sale barns and private sales. Can you tell me a little bit more about that?
Sure. Honestly, my first cow, Paisley, I bought her from an equity sale barn. She was going to end up as a cheeseburger, and I decided that wasn't going to happen. And I've bought a lot of cows from equity, and then a few private sales through people I know. But it's kind of cool calling them rescues, giving them a second chance and having them turn out well.
Right. That's got to be very gratifying at the end of the day when you look in your barn and see them standing there and doing well and being successful for you.
Yeah, they're really all just big puppy dogs right now. I like to think that they thank me for what I did for them because they're a lot of fun.
Now, going forward, what's your goal? What's kind of the next step where you'd like to be at?
Well, I mean, the end goal is 40 cows. Obviously, I've got quite a ways to go, but growing slowly is fine with me. I guess I would rather not accumulate a whole lot of debt and be stressed out about that or get in over my head, as they say. And I just want to enjoy it. Obviously, I have to work off the farm to make everything work, but I enjoy it. I enjoy the hard work. I've got 2 teenage girls that I want them to see that anything's possible.
At Heartland Interpretation and Translation Services, their mission is to expand access to communication, providing opportunities for growth within the community and supporting local businesses through premium language services. Their services include spoken language interpreting in more than 350 languages, including Spanish, Haitian Creole, and Marshallese. They also offer certified document translations and corporate language training. Visit www.heartlandlanguage.com to bridge the communication gap today. Read all about Teresa's journey under the headline From Farmhand to Farmer on dairystar.com. Next, we head to Mechanicsville, Iowa. After a derecho knocked their barn off its foundation, Lakea and Tanner Tenley worked with the Iowa Barn Foundation to restore it, earning the foundation's Award of Distinction and taking part in this fall's Iowa Barn Tour. Along with continuing to use their barn built in 1862, the Tenleys opened Greg's Milkhouse Market, a farm-to-table store located right in their front yard. Let's catch up with that conversation I had with them. What made you decide to forego the larger dairy route and stay smaller and more do the direct-to-consumer business?
Yeah, so we decided if we were going to start milking cows that we would have to own our market. So down where we're at, there's one other dairy farm here in Cedar County, and we didn't know the security of milking cows commercially. Prices weren't very promising at that time either. So we decided to go the route of starting our own market and having our own customers.
And what kind of products do you supply here?
Yeah, so we have fresh milk, so A2 milk from our Jersey cows. We also have beef and pork that comes off of our farm as well. We have Shorthorn and Angus beef cattle that we sell meat directly to consumer, whether it's bulk, locker meat, people want a half, quarter, whole, that kind of thing, as well as individual cuts that they can purchase from our store.
What have been some of the most rewarding parts of having your own storefront and your own business right here on your farm?
Yeah, knowing our customers, seeing their faces every week, that's pretty rewarding, knowing that we have a part in the food that they're able to feed their families. So that's been really cool. Also just raising our family here and knowing that giving our kids the farm lifestyle, the country lifestyle, not everyone gets to live that life. And we have to remind our older kids too that, this isn't normal. Kids in their class don't get to experience this life, and we're so grateful that we get to give that to them. So
you talked about having that direct interaction with your customers here and getting to meet them and have that. Why is it important to establish that kind of connection with your customers and tie people back into agriculture?
Yeah, we're just getting so much further removed from agriculture, even just rural communities in general. And as I said earlier, the more removed people are from their food, or the more degrees of separation, the more that they're going to fear it, the more that they're going to have questions, or they just don't know how it's produced. And rightfully so, that makes sense. So bringing them here to the farm, letting them, see reality and see how things work. That's also been a rewarding piece of it too. I never really thought we'd take on the education piece of it, but it just kind of came naturally with what we're doing here on the farm.
So you and Tanner, you both came from bigger commercial herds. What positives do you guys have with having your smaller, because you guys milk 10 cows for your raw milk, right?
Correct.
Yeah. So why is it important to have that smaller herd, or what's the biggest difference you guys have had with that now?
Yeah. And I feel like there's a little bit more flexibility that it gives just our family lifestyle. We're not tied to 1,000 cows. So I grew up milking, my family milked 900 registered Jersey cows, and the amount it takes to get chores done, that's pretty significant with 10 cows, right? So it really does give our family the freedom to have time together outside of the farm. That can be pretty important. And seeing that we're real people producing real food, it just doesn't come from a creamery, or there's no connection. And people, I feel like, really do crave the connection to their food. I think we were just meant to have that connection with their food. Seeing a face and shaking the hand that fed the cows, I think that's pretty important to people, especially nowadays.
Mm-hmm. You guys have been in operation for 2 years now. What have you learned about yourself, your farm, your family in those 2 years of owning your own store and having it on the farm?
Yeah, and like I mentioned earlier, we're designed to do hard things. And I'm not one to have a corporate career, I guess. I had one outside of college, but before Tanner and I got married, and we're designed to pursue something, and I think that's really cool. And when you have a goal for yourself, like we
went through the Grow Your Future Award through Farm Bureau. It was a young farmers conference, and the first place prize money was $10,000. I'm like, oh, that sounds cool. Let's give it a try. And going through the application process, and we had to do a speech in front of like 500, 1,000 people or whatever. And it's like, I never in my wildest imagination, I was like, oh, we'll just give it a try, see what happens. And we got first place, and it's just like, wow, that's really cool. And, you know, your self-esteem gets that much larger. And it's just like, you're meant to do hard things and get out of your comfort zone. And if you're lucky, it just might work out, right?
Then you guys are going to be part of the Iowa barn tour going on. What was kind of the process of going into that? And can you talk a little bit about the barn that's going to be featured on the tour?
For sure. Yeah. So the Iowa Barn Foundation found us. We applied for a grant to fix our barn. We went through that process, and the Iowa Barn Foundation is now putting us on the All Iowa Barn Tour. It's the largest barn tour in the entire country. There's about 105 stops in the state of Iowa, and we're one of them out here in Mechanicsville. So really excited for that. The spring tour, we were on that, and between our grand opening and the barn tour, we had about 900 people come out for that. So totally blew us away, and we're excited for it again. So.
Definitely. Can you talk a little bit about the barn that'll be featured on the tour?
Yes, yeah. So the barn was built around 1862, we believe, and that's the barn that we also milk our cows in. So there's 6 stanchions in the barn with a pipeline that goes into our milk house. There's some box stalls, there's a lean-to, and we have everything we need in the barn. We have a hay mow and hay and straw stored up top too. So it's all kind of self-contained. When it's negative 40 degrees in the wintertime, it's all right there. We don't have to travel too far to pitch some hay down, so we appreciate that. We fixed the barn in 2020, so the derecho came through August of 2020. I guess it was later fixed in 2022. We kind of had to decide what we were going to be doing with it. When we decided that we're going to be milking cows, we made the investment, got it fixed, and we're milking cows in it today.
Read all about Tenley Family's farm under the headline Historic Barn, Modern Farm on dairystar.com. Finally, we conclude today's episode in southeast Minnesota. Amy Kylo talked with Katie Bono, who has been making cheese from goat's milk since she was 15 years old and started her own creamery, Capra Nera Creamery, in 2016.
We're out in the pasture with the goats. Lila is here. Lila is almost 4. Mm-hmm. And so tell me just a little bit about your creamery and your goat operation. Tell me just a little bit background.
I run a micro creamery. I milk 30 to 35 goats, and I make all of my milk into raw aged goat cheeses. I sell most of my cheese through the farmer's market, direct to consumer.
Yeah, and then tell me, when do you, tell me a little bit about, like, when do you kid? What's your kind of milk production season? How often do you milk? Mama. Where do you milk? All that good stuff.
My farm is very seasonal, so all of my goats get dried up at the same time, and they all freshen around the same time. So I will do kidding season in March and April, and I dam raise kids, so they nurse on the mothers through May. And I start making cheese in June. Cheese making season goes from June through October usually. And I do most of my cheese sales the rest of the year. So cheese sales season is kind of October through March again.
I love it. And then you said you do raw aged cheese. Tell me a little bit about what are some of the different types of cheeses people might be able to enjoy from Capra Nera.
The main cheese that I make is original to my creamery. It's flavor-wise and texture-wise, it's kind of like a cheddar Parmesan cross. So you get real nice, nutty Parmesan flavors. It's very sliceable, and you can cut it up into cubes and things like that. It's very, very edible. Easygoing in the flavor, but also super interesting. So that's what I make primarily, and that's called Contadina. And then I also make a couple of Asiago-style cheeses, one with rosemary and one with black pepper in it. I do a Gouda-style cheese, a Tome-style cheese, which is kind of a semi-soft cheese. And then I usually make blue cheese as well.
So tell me a little bit, for someone who enjoys their cheese, like what do you hope it brings into the home of someone who buys your cheese and takes it home?
Yeah, I think I hope that people feel a little bit adventurous when they're eating my cheese. They get a little bit of a story along with the food. I really had a huge life-changing experience when I studied abroad in Italy, and eating the food there and just being immersed in that culture, which is so appreciative of good, high-quality food. Like, that was my experience getting into cheese, and so I hope to pass that along to people as well through my products.
So tell me about, when did you study abroad? Did you go to farms with creameries? Tell me a little bit more about that experience.
When I was in college, I got to study abroad in Italy, and I worked through a program called WOOF, which is Willing Workers on Organic Farms. And in exchange for room and board, you get to work on a farm and have that farm experience. So I sought out a few farms in Italy that were farmstead creameries. They were producing either cow, sheep, goat milk, and then making cheese out of it. So I got to do some cheese making down in Sicily, and then as far north as Val d'Aosta, which is way, way up in the northwest corner of Italy.
Wow, that's incredible. So you were interested, you were studying that. When did you get started in goats and in, dairy goat production?
I got my first goat when I was 12. Her name was Blossom, and she was a Nubian. And I won her through a 4-H essay contest. So the year after I won her, I had to provide a goat for the next year's winner. After that, goats reproduce very quickly and easily, so I soon had many goats milking. And we couldn't drink all of the milk ourselves. So my mom said I had to figure out something to do with the milk. And I had some help from some neighbors and friends and learned how to make cheese.
Wow, that's incredible. And so you've had goats in some capacity or another ever since you were 12.
Yeah, so I've had goats for over 20 years already.
Wow, that's incredible. And now, obviously, Lila's out here with it. You have some kids and you have another baby expected in November. Congratulations. And so tell me a little bit about, raising your kids on the farm and what that means to you.
Yeah, so when I started, I wasn't quite married yet. My husband and I had just gotten engaged. And we had our oldest son, Oren, in 2018, and then Lila in 2021, and we'll have another kid in November of this year. And having kids has really changed the vision I've had for my my creamery and farm. It's changed the amount of time and energy that I have to devote to my goats and my cheese making. Mm-hmm. But it's made the whole business worthwhile just because I am able to keep my kids with me the vast majority of the time. And they're able to grow up on a really kid-friendly version of a farm. They get to be out with the goats. They get to experience a lot of the hands-on stuff of farming, everything from, using a pitchfork to scoop up poop, to handling small squares, things that aren't really as accessible on a bigger farm like my husband has. So he's got a larger dairy farm, and they'll definitely be involved with that as they get older. But this just makes it easier for them as young kids to be involved with farming.
Read all about Katie Bono and her cheese-making story under the headline, Making Artisan Cheese Since 15 on dairystar.com. And we'd like to thank today's sponsor, Heartland Interpretation and Translation. Heartland Interpretation and Translation partners with dairy farms from across the Midwest by offering 24/7 access to interpreting services in over 350 languages.
Visit www.heartlandlanguage.com or call 812-499-1696 for a free quote today. Well, Dan, there is certainly a lot of great stories in the latest issue of the Dairy Star. One of them is about farm safety. Our reporter Jenna spoke with an associate professor and extension dairy specialist at South Dakota State University, and we heard about her experiences farm safety with Hispanic workers.
With this issue's Our Side of the Fence, we put a bow on World Dairy Expo. Michelle spoke with attendees of the event from outside her readership area about their farms, from differences to many similarities for this issue's Our Side of the Fence.
Another story features Asia the cow, Lucky Advent Asia of Burt Marr Farms in Osseo, Wisconsin, which just turned 18 years old. Crazy to think about a cow being that old and still here with us today. Dan had the chance to talk with Alan Lundberg and his daughter Erica about the cow and the effect she's had not only on our farm, but the Holstein breed in general.
And finally, we bring back the FFA Spotlight. In this issue, we highlighted the FFA chapter in Holdingford, Minnesota. Find more stories in next week's Dairy Star newspaper. Then come back to the Dairy Delivery on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or wherever you listen to podcasts to hear more of those stories. rate and subscribe, and if you or someone you know is interested in being featured in the Dairy Star or on Dairy Delivery, reach out at dairydelivery@dairystar.com so we can continue sharing all dairy all the time.